We want to turn now to the sharp rise in book bans in America's schools and libraries.
The banning of books. We're going backwards. The human race is devolving.
Parents and school officials banning books at an unprecedented rate.
It's pretty clear we've learned nothing from history, since it continues to repeat itself. And right now, there's been a lot of books that have been banned.
I'm sure we've got hundreds of people out there that would like to see those books before we burn them.
Those guys sound like they're fun to be around at parties, aren't they? If you've been paying attention to the news, your local library, or schools in your area, you've probably heard about book banning. It's not a new thing by any means. I mean, we've been doing this for centuries, but it's really starting to escalate these past few years. To put it simply, book banning is when a book is deemed offensive or controversial by an authoritative group like parents, school faculty, or the government. It's usually done out of the narrative that it, quote, protects people from harmful ideologies, even though censorship doesn't do anything to teach people either. But that doesn't stop people from pushing for select books to be banned from school libraries, public libraries, and even school curriculums. While it's definitely a problem in the United States, it's not the same depending on which state you're looking at. Yeah, you've got your New Yorks and your Wisconsins that have about 30 books or less under their belt. Then you have 204 banned books in Florida, over 450 in Pennsylvania, and they just surpassed 800 over in Texas! What the fuck? But even if you're in Utah, which has about 12 banned books as of now, that's still 12 too many. And it's only going to get worse from here if we don't talk about it. So let's talk about how a lot of these bans tend to follow the same pattern. A good number of books that are being banned right now are by and about people of color and the LGBT community. I feel like saying that alone should be causing alarms to go off in some people's heads, but I think we should really dive into why certain books are banned. Who knows, maybe some of them have a valid reason to be. A tried and true classic, the Harry Potter series has been ingrained in both pop culture and the nightmares of conservative parents across the country for over 2 decades.
Let me say something about Harry Potter. Warlocks are enemies of God.
Magic is the prime reason why the books have been banned, though that hasn't stopped many of these same Christians from enjoying other media like the Chronicles of Narnia, Hocus Pocus, and basically the majority of Disney's animated catalog. Not the obvious racism or anti-Semitism present in the books though, only the magic is a concern to these people. These books are a prime example of how book banning is worthless given how profitable the IP is. Movies, merch, and theme parks are among the many things that have come out since the original book's release, and it's not going to die down anytime soon. Similar fantasy books like Twilight and The Hunger Games have also gotten this treatment, but none of them can help to repeat with the boy who lived through all this BS. Out of Darkness is, at its core, a historical retelling of Romeo and Juliet. Only one's black, one's Mexican, they're both in Texas, and it's an actual romance instead of a glorified one-night stand. That commonality hasn't stopped the former from being banned due to its discussion of racism and interracial romance. That already sounds bad as is until you learn that this Texas-based book is among the 800 plus books banned across the state, with many of said books being about race, within a state that originally belonged to Mexico. I think you're getting where I'm going with this, right? Maya Kobabe's Genderqueer is a memoir documenting her struggle with identity, growing up, trauma, and feeling like an outsider. Pretty universal messages that a lot of people can relate to, right? Clearly not, because it's widely considered to be the most banned book in the country. Most people cite the fact that the book features sexual content, discussions of puberty, and gender identity. It's also a graphic novel, meaning that not much is left to the imagination. Like pretty much every other book, this one's banned because parents want to, quote, protect their kids. Well, first off, the target audience isn't kids. It's young adults, specifically ages 15 and older. By that point, it'd be an issue if they didn't know about these things. They're already going through puberty around this time, which is already such a stigmatized topic despite the fact that it happens to everyone. Second, they're also old enough by that point to know what the LGBT community is. Some, like myself, might start identifying with them by that time, if not sooner or later. And even then, have you ever walked down school halls full of high schoolers? Those guys don't care about PDA. Like, at all. Plus, if you actually read the book, you learn that Maya discovers that Aria is sexual. As in, they don't experience sexual attraction and is uncomfortable with it. You're telling me that this book promotes porn when the main character hates sex? You're literally on your side in the department, bro, turn the team attack off. You know, there's another graphic novel that deals with these themes, minus the queer aspects. Lighter Than My Shadow by Katie Green. Like Genderqueer, it's a great graphic memoir dealing with similar themes of puberty, trauma, and belonging. only this time with the backdrop of an eating disorder. I'd argue that the imagery in that book is more grotesque than Kobe's book in terms of how her bodily insecurities are portrayed. Not to mention that Green was sexually abused multiple times by a man claiming to help her get over her anorexia, which is not held back here. I've read both of these books numerous times, but only one school district in Pennsylvania has been lighter than my shadow in comparison to the numerous that Genderqueer has. Call me crazy, but I think we'd be seeing more bans if Katie Green was transgender too. Lastly, there's And Tango Makes Three, a picture book based on a true story about two male penguins raising a chick at a zoo. Ignoring the fact that penguins and many other animals exhibit bisexual tendencies in the real world, people who ban the book mark it as sexually explicit? Did they download their copies from Fur Affinity? But those are just 4 of the hundreds of books that are increasingly being challenged in the United States. These bans aren't the only things that are increasing either. It's the number of people affected by all this. Obviously, the kids are the primary targets here. Their youth has been weaponized by the ones that advocate for book banning, and are also the ones who are prevented from reading these books. But we also have to take into account the adults that are also suffering from this. Teachers and especially librarians have gotten death threats over their views on book banning and hosting the books where they work. Let me repeat that. They're getting death threats over books. Over fighting for the right to do their jobs properly. I don't think a sane person will look at that and go, yeah, that's a normal reaction. What bothers me about this is that the people advocating for violence against members of the community are the same ones dictating their child's worldviews. And even if they aren't personally responsible for endangering the lives of others, the people who are pro-banning are essentially limiting their child's accessibility to learning about the world around them. You're stunting both their curriculum and personal growth by banning them from reading from multiple perspectives thanks to your radical actions. The scariest part, though, is the advocacy for book burning. Like you saw earlier, there really are people in power in this country who want that. Remember that Pennsylvania county that banned Lighter Than My Shadow? The guy pushing for that to happen wanted it to be torn apart and burnt. The same people who spewed out conspiracy theories that the pandemic was just another Holocaust and being a modern-day conservative is like being a Jew in Nazi Germany are the ones embracing the same horrific forms of censorship that the Nazi Party did. You'd think they'd catch on to that, but then again, reading books would make you see that connection. We all know they haven't picked up one since the Spartans' version of what they needed to read in high school. Kids aren't stupid though. They're not a homogeneous hive mind either. Everyone comes from different backgrounds, has different interests, and matures at different rates. They should be allowed to read about people who come from the same backgrounds as them. Their interests should be supported. And most importantly, they should learn that there's more to life than what they and their parents experience. Because that's what you're supposed to do at a library or at a school. You learn. I think these parents failed to accept the fact that the world isn't the same as how it was when they were growing up. That's how life works as much as they fight against it. Change is how we became a country to begin with. It's how you got to where you are as you're watching this video. Literature undoubtedly played a role in those things and more. They claim to be pro-history but refuse to respect their own. And on top of that, these people also claim to be fans of the First Amendment, aka the freedom of speech, but actively ignore it in favor of silencing everyone else's. Look, I get it. Some parents are stricter than others, and parenting styles tend to reflect their beliefs. Others might not personally like these books, but said beliefs, parenting styles, and opinions aren't universal. You shouldn't be telling other people's kids what they can and can't read based solely on what you stand by. It's like if my parents made it so that nobody would be allowed to watch SpongeBob SquarePants. That would have heavily affected people's childhoods, our pop culture, and admittedly make uploading YouTube videos easier now that I think about it. I can go on about how book banning sucks and that it ultimately screws everyone over in the long run. I could talk about how authors, publishers, and booksellers have benefited from the publicity. I could mention that kids are naturally going to be more drawn to things that they're not allowed to have access to and will likely find a way to do so. And I could beg on my hands and knees to revoke bans on every book besides A Farewell to Arms, which is genuinely the worst book ever made. But all jokes aside, I can't be the only one who needs to talk about these things. That's where you come in. Attend your local school board meetings if possible. Support your local library that hosts banned or challenged books, as well as the librarians whose lives are in legitimate danger. And most importantly, read banned books. Even if it's a rental or secondhand or whatever, you're doing exactly as the author intended, getting their story out. Because if we keep shutting them down, who knows what books we'll have left at the end of it all. Actually, I can think of one.
Well, I suggest you read a totally real book that has absolutely no poisoning, maiming, or killing in it called the Holy Bible.
Oh no. When that book done got that.
I don't want to have anal sex,